Well, Joey, in this video we're going to model this little peg. When I looked at it first, I thought this would be a fairly straightforward one to model, but it's actually a tricky little one. I've kind of had a look at this and I've had to think about how we should do it, and honestly, I'm not sure there's going to be a massive difference between using the Extrude approach or the Revolve approach. I think they're both equally valid and they can both work. I'm not even sure there's any time to save by using the Revolve, but we haven't done much with Revolve, so it's probably good practice to use that one. So let's go with that. And I'm going to sketch on the right plane, go home, and now let's just create a line. And one thing I suppose is the part is symmetrical, so let's have the work we have to do and just create half of the part and mirror it. So we only really need to worry about half of the part. So I'm going to draw kind of a part of the section of the profile of the part, and we just really want to capture the rough shape of it for starters. I'm not worried at all about the measurements that we're going at, and that looks pretty good. I'm also going to draw a line from our origin horizontally and right click to exit, and that I'm going to define as the axis of revolution. Okay, and now let's kind of set some kind of diameters. So we could create a dimension from here to here. That's just a smart dimension. But since we're talking about diameters and we want to revolve this shape, instead let's use the symmetric diameter dimension. And now if we click between these two lines, let's just start from here to here. If we click between those two lines, now it shows the diameter. It shows basically double the value, and it shows it in a more user-friendly kind of a way. So I'm going to type in for that 3.2 and press enter. And we can do again, just use the same for the shaft. Okay, so it's reusing the last, so let's go again. Okay, so I just right click to exit out of the previous selection, click this line, and for the shaft diameter I'm going to type in 4.8 and press enter. For this outer shoulder, okay, again I'm just going to right click to exit and now click on this and click on this. So for the outer shoulder I type in 5.2, press enter. And for our mid shoulder I'm going to right click on this axis and this line and enter in 6.4 millimeters. Press enter. So it's taking shape a little bit now. We can also go back to Smart Dimension and let's give these kind of lengths. So the length here, I'm going to type in 1.6 divided by 2, press enter. For this, I'm going to go from here to, I'm going to go from here to here and call that 7.2 and give this line a length of 0.8 and press enter. So that's a fully constrained sketch now. Everything except for our axis. I suppose I could just put in a constraint there, make that vertically below that, and now that's constrained too. So I'm pretty happy with that. We can close our sketch, and now our revolve has been done, so I can click finish and cancel. So that's a start. Next, let's cut out a slot along the front face of our part. So I go to the right view. It is a slot, so we could use the slot command. We could also just draw a sketch and cut it from the sketch. But let's use the slot command since it's there. And for the reference plane, I'm going to choose the right plane. And now Solid Edge is just asking for us to draw a line to define the slot. I'm going to hover over, this is our origin, and now as I move away from it horizontally, you can see the red dotted line, which means Solid Edge is tracking it to create a horizontal relationship from our origin. So I click and draw that horizontal line and right click to exit the line command. Okay, so we want that slot to be 3 millimeters long with a radius of 0.8 at the end of it, but we also want the slot to extend out past the end of the part. So I just want to play things very safe and just make that, I don't know, 5 millimeters long, and I just want to position the end of our line so that it puts the slot in the correct position. So I'm going to use Create as Construction and Project to Sketch, click OK, and just grab the end face of our part here, click Accept, use our Smart Dimension, maybe as well actually we'll create a circle by center point, and I'm just going to put that on the end of our line here. And we want a diameter of 0.8 and press Enter. Let's get in there. And now maybe let's use a Smart Dimension. So we can create a Smart Dimension from here. If we we could do it to a tangent to the circle. In that case, we would click More Options, select the Tangent option. Let's try that again. So from here to here, and that would be the length. That would be the length we use, but we actually have the dimension to the center of our circle, so we're going to go to the end of this line here. So I right click to cancel that. I disable the tangent option and just create a line from the end of that line there, and enter 3. And I was expecting our line there to get fully constrained, but it hasn't. So I'm going to press the select button, and I'm just going to try and drag this to see what moves. Oh! And when I tried to create this coincident with our origin along the same line, it seems it didn't work. So let's try this relate collinear. This line collinear with our y-axis. Ooh, that's better. And I didn't really need this circle at all, but I could just give it a diameter of 0.8 and press Enter. And now we have a fully constrained sketch. I could have also just deleted it. It's not doing anything really. So I'm going to click OK, exit that sketch. And now we have our extent options. So we want this slot to go right through both sides of our part. So I want to do a symmetric extent. Oh, did I choose non-symmetric extent? I want to choose, so go back to the profile. That looks okay. Exit that sketch, and we're only getting really options on one-sided non-symmetric extent. It looks like our preview here looks kind of off. So I'm going to click on the options for this sketch. We have an arc end. Ooh, we have a slot width of 12.4. Our slot width should be 0.8. Press Tab, and if I click OK, that looks way better. That's much better. Still, for some reason, we don't have an option to go with a symmetric extent. That's grayed out. We do have finite extent. So if I choose finite and symmetric, now it'll work for us. Okay, so all we really need is a finite extent that is larger than the diameter so that it cuts through the part. So I'm happy with 10 millimeters there. I can just click and click Finish. Okay, that's better. So now it feels like we're getting places, and we can do the other slot through the top of the part here as well. So yeah, so we've gone back into the slot command, create from coincident plane. This time we can choose the top plane of our part, and we can use the same kind of technique again. So I'm going to draw a line vertically, and I'm going to make that line collinear with our y-axis. If we were to go with 3.4, and if I was to make this point coincident with our origin, and if I click here, so now we can get on to the juicy stuff. So we're going to model up our friction ridges, and these are where things kind of get interesting. So we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and well, I'm lazy. I like the easy way, so hopefully we get there the first time and I don't do something stupid. So I'm going to choose Sketch, and I'm going to choose the front plane. And I suppose we're kind of getting a little bit in our own way. It's not a big deal, but part of this ridge is kind of overlapping part of our sketch, and I'd rather not have that. So I'm just going to temporarily close that sketch, click Cancel. Okay, and I'm going to create a parallel plane from our front plane, and we should be seeing a preview. We are, so I just moved to an angle, and I'm not too worried how far it is away. I just want it to be this side of the rib here. And now I want to use that plane, so I'm going to go to PMI. I'm going to click on that plane and I'm going to choose, oh, we're still in this offset plane command. So I choose select to exit out of that. Now choose that plane. Now choose section by plane. That's a cutting plane. And I'm happy with that. Actually, that worked out fine. So I'm going to tick this box and tick finish. And now we have kind of cut through our part. We don't have that rib at the end of the part in the way. And I'm just going to hide that plane and look at the front view of our part. That looks better. So now let's go to creating that sketch again. So I go to Home, Sketch, Create from Coincident Plane. Yep, that's good. So I'm going to choose the front plane and I'm just going to choose Create as Construction, Project to Sketch, click OK. And I'm just going to click on this face and this face of our part and click Accept. And if I hide our design body, you can see this construction geometry we've created. And maybe actually we will just hide it. So sometimes it's kind of nice to just draw on the sketch, because sometimes some of the lines you create snap to the solid model, some of them snap to the sketch. So I'm hiding them now so we know everything we click on will be part of the sketch. Right, so let's kind of try and create the cross section of our friction ridge. So first of all, let's kind of align it. So I'm going to create a line. Again, it's going to be created as construction from our origin up there. And I'm going to set the angle of that to our x-axis and make that 45 degrees. And I'm just going to trim off the end of that. Yeah, so that looks good. And now I'm going to create a point. I'm just going to draw it arbitrarily out here. And I'm going to say collinear. Oh, not collinear. I'm going to say connect this point to this line. And when I did that, I was careful not to select a point on the line, like the end point or the midpoint, or the point would have just been dragged to it like a magnet. I just clicked an arbitrary point on the line. So here's our point now. And we want the distance of that point to be 5 millimeters from the center of our circle, or our origin. So I'm going to choose this distance between dimension, and the orientation is not horizontal vertical. I'm going to say use dimension axis. And that just means how do you want to measure? So I suppose, first of all, horizontal vertical, if I was to use that on this here, there's the horizontal dimension, there's the vertical dimension. I right click, I just right click to get out of that. We don't want that. So we're using use dimension axis, and to use that, it will inherit whatever axis we had before, but we want to create our own axis. So I press this button, and now if we look at the prompt bar, click on a key point or line. So we could do this two ways. We're just saying what way do you want to set up how you want your measurements to be oriented. So if we click on a key point, I could click on the end point of this line, and I could click on the end point here, and then it would say measure everything either parallel to this line or perpendicular to it. Also, we could just click on the actual line and that just captures both ends of it. So different scenarios for a line, it's easy to just click on the line, but sometimes you have multiple lines and lots of different geometry, and you can just click on two different points from it to pick it up. So we just select the line. That's our axis defined. And now I can click on the end point of the line and here, and now we're creating a dimension from that. So I'm going to type in for that 2.5 and press enter. Yeah, that looks wrong, but actually it's right. That's fine. 2.5 and press enter, because we're looking, this is the diameter of our shaft and this is our kind of shoulder. So that's actually perfectly fine. And now we want to create our shoulder from that. So I'm going to choose the line command. I'm going to get out of create as construction, and I kind of hover over our point until we get this selection. So I click on the line, click on the point, and I just draw my line, and I draw back in again here and right click, and we can do the same on the other side. I'm kind of careful not to automatically create a constraint I didn't want. Okay, so they look okay. So it's obviously kind of wrong, but I did it obviously wrong to prevent any kind of accidental relationships getting created. And I'm going to create a construction line from this point out, and I'm going to make that perpendicular to this line. So this is at 45 degrees. This is also at 45 degrees this way. Okay, so let me just confirm that with an angular dimension. From here to our x-axis, there's 45 degrees that way. So this angle is 90 degrees, and we want this angle here. Right click to exit. I want the angle between this line and this line to be 9 degrees. And press enter. And the same over here. Also, we want this line to be parallel with this line, and I can just trim this line now. Also, we want we want to close our figure, so I can create an arc. Oh, the arc is here. Arc by center point. So our center point is here, and then the first point of our arc is here. And actually, we're in create as construction. We don't want as construction, we want it as solid. So I deselect that, and I try to pick up on the circle, pick up on this line. We want the intersection of both of them. So you see this little X lift saying that if I click now, it will select the intersection. So I click. That's our arc created. And I was going to recreate all of that geometry on the other side of this line, but it's actually going to be symmetrical. So maybe let's use that symmetry instead. So I'm going to press select, and I'm just going to delete that line and delete that line, and close this sketch now with a line between both of these, between this arc and this line here, and right click to exit. Okay, so looks like we're kind of there, but kind of not. So the width of this ridge is 0.8 millimeters, so we want it to be half that. So I'm going to use again symmetric diameter from this center line here to the outside face of our ridge, and I type in 0.8 and press enter. And if we were to look at that with this dimension, oh, okay, so if we were to use it, we'll use dimension axis. This is our dimension axis, and now if we measure that with a normal dimension, it's 0.4, so that's half of that. So this is just showing the symmetry of it. And now that sketch has become fully constrained except for this line here. And I suppose we could, just to be sure, I like to have my sketches fully constrained because it just means I haven't missed anything, and everything is kind of solid. So I'm going to create this line, collinear with this, and start the trim command, and just drag over every line I want to trim and release the button. Now we have a fully constrained sketch. So I can tick on this box to exit the sketch and click finish and click cancel. Right, so let's look at our design body, and we have our sketch here, and I'm just going to hit save, and let's create another couple of planes. So I want to create a parallel plane from this face out a distance of, press 2 millimeters, press enter, and just click. So there's our first plane. I'm just going to hide our section view, and I want to create another plane parallel from there, 2 millimeters as well. So I press 2 millimeters, press enter, and click there. Okay, so I'm just going to hit save. So now let's go with extrude, and we'll create from, we choose select from sketch, and selection type is chain. So I'm just going to select this sketch we made earlier and tick this box, and we have a preview here. I'm going to choose a one-sided extent, and I'm going to choose from to extent, and let's use that little trick we used before. So this time our from surface I'm going to click on, and I'm going to choose this plane, and now we have select to surface or right click to extrude the profile plane. So I'm just going to right click, and okay, right, you might notice we have a cut. So that was a boo-boo. So I'm going to change from automatic extrude to add, and now we have, that's more like it. We have a little ridge here, and I can click finish, and we're back into the extrude command again. And I'm going to do the exact same thing almost again. So I'm going to choose this outline as a profile, tick this box, and now our extent from to, the from surface I'm going to choose as this plane, and then the to surface I'm going to choose as this face, and click finish and click cancel. So that's looking better. And now let's have a look at these mirror commands, and let's use mirror copy feature. Our first prompt is select features. So I'm just going to choose from our part both of these protrusions and tick this box. And now the plane, our mirror plane is actually going to be this face here. And if I click finish, there's almost our ridge complete. Let me just hit save. Next we want to round off these protrusions. So let's just see if we can do that with the round command. So I'm going to choose a radius of 0.4, press tab. I'm going to hide those planes we created and the sketch. Okay, so that looks better. And that looks better. So we can tick those, preview, finish, cancel. And maybe let's see if we can pattern those features now. So I'm going to choose the pattern command and a pattern type of circular, placement type quick pattern, selection type feature. So let's start selecting our features. We have this protrusion, we have our mirror, and we have our round. So I'm going to tick that box, and now we have define pattern geometry. Let's maybe have a look, see if we can. I'm just moving around. This looks close to what we want. So I'm selecting the, you can see, very difficult to see. So let me just zoom in. So you can see we have our base coordinate system. And as I move around, even just a tiny move can change things. We don't want it on our x-axis. We don't want it on our z-axis. We want our y-axis. So there it's moving along our y-axis. And you can see the point. Oh, it's so hard to see. Yeah. So you can see there's an orange dot between this arrow line with the arrow each way. And then there's an orange dot within that where it's selecting our base, the base of our coordinate system. So I just clicked there. And now we're back into our pattern parameters. So we have a circular pattern going a full circle, which is good. And the occurrence type is fast, which sounds right. And I'm just, oh, right. So we have a dialog box and it seems to have gone a little bit rogue on us. Yeah. So the number of occurrences, if I press my control and my scroll, I'm able to change the number of occurrences, but the dialog box where that shows is kind of hidden. So I've just minimized solid edge and, oh, here we go. It's down in the bottom corner here. Really hidden on us. So now you see the feature count is 5. I'm going to change that to 4 and press tab. I'm going to click preview and finish. And there we go. That's half of our part. So now we can choose mirror, copy part, select selection of body, click on our body. And now for the plane, we can just choose the front plane and click finish. So there is our part. And actually, I was going to give it a colour, but I think grey isn't a bad colour for this part. We could also choose black, but black is really hard to see, so I'm actually pretty happy with leaving this one grey. This model is based on the design posted by Tal72 on printables.com. Thanks to Tal72 for that. In our next video, we'll put together our first assembly in Solid Edge. Hopefully you join me for that one, Joey.